All right. Hi, and welcome back to the Enterprise Community Spotlight. This month, I am sitting down with Jennifer Isaac, who works for a company called Bridges to Prosperity. And I am Amy. I'm the community manager at our Greenwood Village office. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sitting down with us this month.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to meet with you and learn more about Bridges to Prosperity. And so tell me a little bit about what it is that you guys do, what you do for the company.
Happy to. So, Bridges to Prosperity, we're a nonprofit. Our administrative headquarters traditionally have been here in Denver, but our operations, the bulk of our work, take place in East Africa. So, we have a very small staff here in Denver, primarily our fundraising staff, and then myself, I run our systems and IT. And then we have programs in Ethiopia, Rwanda, Uganda, and most recently Zambia. And in those locations, we build pedestrian trail bridges in rural communities that otherwise may not have safe year-round access to the services that they need. So if you imagine a small rural community in Rwanda, Rwanda is a very hilly topography with a lot of rivers. And particularly in recent years with climate change, many communities across Rwanda face historic flooding events now on really a regular basis. And so a small rural community that has a river running by it may face significant portions of the year where they can't cross that river to get to a health clinic, or for children to reach school, or for people, many people living in rural communities like this are smallholder farms. So they might have crops that they need to sell at market, things like that. And so once a community has a bridge, then they have reliable year-round access to the services that that community needs.
That's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure there's such a need for this.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's significant. Um, Statistics wise, out of the 8 billion-ish people who live in the world, 1 in 7 of those people live in rural settings. And out of that, a significant portion of those people live a pedestrian only lifestyle. So that means that people are walking for all of those services that they need to reach on a regular basis. And many, many countries do a fantastic job with building what are called feeder roads, those small dirt roads that connect rural communities to the larger road infrastructure that allow countries to function and to move goods and things like that. But it's this last mile access that really faces challenges in wide swaths of the population in the countries where we work.
and especially when they're near, like you said, the flooding, happens, and then it cuts off all access
Right.
to for these communities.
Yeah.
Um, how long has Bridges? It's Bridges to Prosperity?
Yep, Bridges to
Okay.
Prosperity, exactly. We were founded, let me get this right, in 2001. So we're coming up on
Okay.
4 years. Started very, very small. The gentleman who founded the organization is from Virginia. And he, at that time, he ran across a National Geographic, like in a waiting room of a doctor's office. And the cover photo was taken in Ethiopia. And it was a group of men across what you could tell was a broken down there had been a bridge there across a chasm, and there were men on either side of this chasm holding rope, and then there were men just crossing, hanging from this rope. And he saw that his brother was a civil engineer, and he was like, we could do something about this. And they actually did. That was the first bridge that was built by Bridges to Prosperity. He fundraised and organized the engineering expertise to go and build a bridge at that site. And so that kind of kicked things off. And over time, just kind of word of this very small nonprofit doing kind of these one-off projects grew, funding grew. We established our corporate partnership program where we actually partner with engineering and construction firms who send teams to participate in the construction of bridges. And over time, it's just really grown. And so to date, we have built or supported the building of over 600 bridges in over 20 countries. About 4 years ago, actually almost 5 years ago, right? Almost concurrent with COVID, we focused operations specifically on East Africa with the intention to scale our work, to really show if with focused effort in a specific region, that we could partner with government and private sector effectively to really expand bridge building efforts and to really partner with governments in the prioritization of these types of bridges as a part of government-led rural transport planning. And so with that focus in a specific region, we have begun to see that take hold. So we have active partnerships now with the government in Rwanda, in Zambia, where it's actually becoming a part of government prioritization to consider the building of these bridges, and where we're able to train government and private sectors so that when we exit a country, that there's an ongoing bridge building program present.
That is amazing. And I mean, to go in and actually get the governments involved so that and helping to further the cause when you guys aren't there, that is amazing work that you're doing. And I mean, do you have statistics on like how many people are you helping with building these bridges and
Yeah,
giving them all the access to
we
services that they need?
We do. I'll try and send you after we wrap up today. I'll send you kind of a snapshot of some of those statistics. Like I said, over 600 bridges, and on average, we say that we actually have data that we pull from
Right.
world population data sites, but on average, a bridge serves about 2,500 people on a regular basis.
That
Yeah.
is such amazing work. How did you become involved with the organization?
Yeah, a good question. So my career background has been primarily in nonprofit. And so in 2019, I was looking for a new role at the place I'd been there for about 4 years. And I had had a long-standing interest actually in nonprofits that were working in Africa. I have two children who we adopted from Africa. My son's
Oh,
from
that's
Ethiopia, my daughter's
amazing.
from Liberia. So I had like a cursory awareness of different nonprofits that were doing work in a variety of African countries. And so I had a little bit of interest. And while I was looking, I happened across a posting from Bridges to Prosperity for a position. And so at the time I applied, and it was actually unusual at the time um, to see work based in Denver that was doing work in Africa. I think we're one of a few nonprofits that actually have operations in East Africa that have some sort of presence or representation here in Denver. And so it felt like at the time, like, oh, this feels like kind of meant to be kismet kind of
Right.
situation. And so I applied and got the role. And really, it's been kind of the pinnacle of fulfillment as far
Yeah.
as my career progression has gone. I love what I do, and I love what our organization does, and just have a lot of pride and excitement about my role and the work of the organization in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like you said, kind of all the pieces kind of came together and you had the perfect opportunity to kind of continue doing the work you had been doing, but also tie in with your children that you adopt. I mean, that's amazing and really beautiful. So do you often get to travel to these places and see those communities and
I do.
or
I
them
do.
or the building of the bridges?
Yeah. So our program offices in each country are typically in the capital, and the work we do, the actual construction of bridges, is typically in the more rural areas. So I have actually only been physically to one bridge site, but I do travel to our program countries on a fairly regular basis. So most recently, I was in Rwanda. And so I spend most of the time in the office because I'm typically training our staff on using our software tools and then kind of gathering user requirements on what we need to build for them. And that kind of stuff. But I love the people I work with, and I do get to, even though I'm not on site at bridge builds, I do get to kind of get a little bit closer when I'm there with our staff in country and hear about the work they're doing.
Yeah, and it must be really rewarding to be there and see the positive effects
Yeah.
that your work has on those communities. Um, I have a question about how, if at all, if you guys have been affected by some of the current political stuff going on, as far as like US aid. And I was thinking about this, going in, prior to interviewing you, and I kind of just was curious, because I've been reading a lot of things, but I wanted to ask you about that and kind of where your funding looks like, and if you guys have been affected by that.
Right. Thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Thanks. We thus far, fortunately, have not been impacted. We don't receive USAID funding,
Okay.
so we have not been impacted at this point by that. I do think it remains to be seen how that plays out in the larger nonprofit and philanthropic space. As that funding is impacted, I think our funders, even though it's not direct USAID funding, will have to make decisions about how they now allocate their funding, because there's this new gap potentially that needs to be addressed. So I don't think we're free and clear. We do have potential funding streams that have not finalized that could be impacted by this. And then I think it's a realistic consideration that funders who we currently work with may need to shift or reallocate funding. So it's very unknown at this point. Again,
Sure.
no immediate impact for us, but potentially impact as we move
Well,
forward.
and I mean, and the impact on those communities
Right.
that you're serving too, could be affected. And
Absolutely. Right. Because many of the communities where we work, there are other organizations who are also working in those
sure.
communities who do have funding tied to USAID, or whose governments are going to have to reassess their budgets. And
Right.
um, yeah, I think there's a lot of domino effect to come from
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think you're absolutely right, and only time will tell kind of what that's going to look like. But I do think it's important to talk about it, and with the work that you're doing and a lot of other nonprofits or people, humanitarian work that people
Yeah.
are doing. So thank you for your input on that. I hope you guys won't be affected negatively because of that, and I hope that more people can learn about you, and you might have new opportunities and new
Right.
people coming in to help funding. um and let me see. So you guys have been at Enterprise. Tell me a little bit about your experience with the Enterprise offices, and
Yeah.
how that works for you and your employees.
Sure. Yeah, like I mentioned, our Denver team is small. We have about 6 people who are actually in the Denver area. And up until COVID, we were at a different co-working space. We worked pretty much a hybrid model. So we were all in the office about 3 days a week. COVID hit, everybody went remote. And because so much of our work was remote anyway, because the bulk of our staff are in other countries, we were already very used to working in a remote setup. And so when COVID hit, we let our lease go on the co-working space we were at and just went fully remote for our Denver staff. And that has worked well for us. But I think, like many organizations who went remote first, they're not having a consistent, welcoming, reliable, equipped place to gather as a staff with some regularity is still really challenging. And so and I love working remotely. I love working from home, but every time I'm together with my team, I'm just really invigorated. So that was our drive really for coming back to a co-working situation. And we chose Enterprise because we had used Enterprise just on a one-off basis on a number of different occasions, and had just been really happy with the flexibility that we were offered, with the equipping. The space has what we need. It has the flexibility of meeting spaces for different activities. Um, And so it's been a perfect match for what we need.
Yeah, I love the way that so many small businesses utilize the enterprise co-working offices, both our downtown location and here in Greenwood Village. And I think along with how your team uses the space, it's an opportunity for everybody to get together, collaborate as a team, and then they can also come on their own if they choose, or again, it's kind of that flexibility for small business and allowing people to still work from home most of the time, but really bringing people together and allowing for that collaboration, and that's great. I have a few other companies that utilize the space in a similar way, and we love that. We love that you guys can come and get together, feel comfortable, and use the space that way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's been great for us.
great.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell me about the company, or maybe any projects you have going on that you're just like really excited about, or anything you would want our viewers to know?
Yeah, I think well, first of all, I always love connecting with people who have an interest in our work. So if anything comes out of this where someone's just like really intrigued by what we do and wants more information, happy to connect and kind of send, like I mentioned, we have an impact deck that really digs into more of the data behind what we do and the impact a bridge
And
can have in the
we
community.
will absolutely include some further information underneath this video, along with contact information
Right.
or website. So if anybody wants to dive deeper and learn more, we'll provide that information.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and I would say something to highlight, really, our newest work, our newest program is Zambia, and that program is really just getting up and running. No bridges constructed yet. Really have been doing the foundational work of building those government relationships and really advocacy for the importance of bridges. But it's starting to really take hold, and we just recently have identified the potential first 5 sites for bridges there. And Zambia will be our first program where we really are approaching it as a technical advisory role, where we come in, we work with the government and key stakeholders. The bridges that we build there we'll probably build about 10 bridges, and they will be training activities where the main goal of those construction projects will be to train the government and private sector, like I had mentioned earlier, so that they can continue the long
Right.
term function of bridge
Sure.
building.
Yeah.
We also have some exciting technical tools that have come out in the last year or so that we've developed that can be utilized by government when they're kind of doing their infrastructure planning. And so, yeah, lots of interesting stuff. People can always go to our website and different resources for the resources that you'll link for to kind of delve into those specific
Yeah.
activities.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack,
Yeah,
and you can dive deeper, and it's really interesting work. And I think that's amazing that, it's almost like that proverb, like if you teach somebody to fish, it's like that. They're going to feed themselves and their
yeah,
families. So not
yeah,
just going in and just building the bridge and leaving,
right.
going in and teaching the government and, the infrastructure teams that are there to
Mhm.
continue the work for
Exactly.
these communities
Right.
is so important and amazing that you guys are doing that. And I think that's about it. Did you have anything else? We'll definitely provide links and more information for our members that have interest in learning more. Can anybody donate?
Yep, we do have just a general donation link on the website if people are interested.
Okay, I would definitely want to post that and encourage people, if they do any type of donation. This is such a great organization, and the work you guys are doing is really important. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
And thank you for being a member at Enterprise. We really enjoy having you guys. And I thanks for taking the time to sit down with me today for our spotlight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much.
Right. Bye.